in just about a minute, so hang in there and I'll be on with you soon. Okay, let's get started. This webinar is about using the growth wheel tools for business development related to collaborating considerations. If you want to do a great job of bringing a good idea to life, we often need to collaborate with others. So how do you find projects and partners that create new value? Hi, I'm Meg Herman. I'm your facilitator today. I work with small businesses, generally startups, but sometimes established businesses here in Chicago. And so what we're going to focus on today is types of collaborations to consider. We're also going to look at types of partners to consider, ways to collaborate with those partners, then how to find and select a partner, and how to clarify expectations and make agreements. So with that information, let's take our first poll. Let's find out where you're from. So just take a moment now and tell us. Okay, let's close the polls. Thank you very much. Somebody's from the hinterlands. Let me know in our question area where you're from. Those people that are outside of Chicagoland, I'd be curious to find out. Let's have our second poll then. Okay, so we want to find out how you heard about it. Okay, so we will close the poll. And so some of you found it from our website, and somebody found it, and some people found it from our eBlast newsletter. That's great. Okay, so let's move on, and I'll keep my question box open so that if you have a question along the way, I'll try to get to it. And let's see what we can come up with. Those of you who took the Assess Your Business with the Growth Wheel tools will recognize this framework, which is the framework of the tools that we're going to use today. All industries, all life stages of businesses, and all sizes of business have to grapple with questions in each one of these areas. And today, we're going to focus on, and more specifically, these areas have 5 specific areas within each one that you can focus on with an advisor or on your own to determine where you need to be going. So the growth wheel frameworks are like maps. They're really here for you to strategically think through an opportunity or an issue, a challenge, or staffing considerations. In one look, they tell you where you are and where you could be going. And when laid out on the meeting table, they create a common language and give ideas in new directions. So today, we're going to focus on partnership area. So I'm going to talk about several things within the partnership area. We're going to look at specifically business alliances, collaborative project work, and social contracts. So during this webinar, if you're actively on the webinar, which I see you are, you will get these 3 tools to help you. They will be sent to you during the course of the webinar. They won't be sent after the webinar. They won't be sent to you if you registered but did not participate. So hopefully that will take care of things for you. Okay, so let's look at this business alliance framework. Here are some opportunities. They've kind of categorized these opportunities for you. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, resource sharing partnership is one of the places where early startups often begin, and then sharing and participating in business ownership. But as you grow, you may also be involved in providing supplies to larger organizations and being either a contractor or a subcontractor. You may enter a purchasing partnership with a number of your businesses, colleagues, to take advantage of discounts, growth discounts. You may join a consortium, and I'm going to talk about each one of these more. You could go into a joint venture, which is probably the most legally involved type. You might just do co-branding together. You might create an industry clique, if you will, or cluster that focuses on advocating within your industry. You might provide strategic alliances to support political advances that affect your industry or your type of business, and you might co-produce together. So which type of partnership is right for you and your business depends on your reason for entering the partnership. If you'd like to reduce the cost of offices and maybe also on servers or printers and so on, a joint office, i.e. a resource community, might be right for you. The key point of this framework is that partnerships can be very beneficial for entrepreneurs who might feel that they do not have the intended impact on customers and suppliers. If a number of small startup businesses join forces and establish a partnership, they'll stand a better chance of success. So use this framework to help you think through what kind of partnerships you want. And we will see that on our next sheet, which is actually a checklist or a tool of the ways you can think about business alliances. So up here, remember, here's the big mega reason why you do this. What are the partnerships that will work best for you? And your intention over here is why you would work on this with this checklist. Many businesses will be looking to save cost or make more sales, but you also may want to advocate in your industry. So you want to look at the different types of partnerships you could have to get inspections. So we're going to go through these briefly. And as you think about this, you might be thinking about which ones are most attractive to you, and then we'll flesh out why those are for you. And so then, that's this next part here. The why is writing down the value of each partnership and what they could bring to your company. And you should also be thinking about what value your partner would get from this partnership as well, because it takes two to tango. And then you'll want to finish by considering who might be those right partnerships. So you can think about a specific person, but it's better if you think about what the need is first. So let's just look at this. So, one thing is research sharing. So this is put at the top partly because it's one of the most available and popular ways of looking at partnerships. There are the idea of having a shared space where you share resources like phones or storage, printers, maybe an office staff person. That's very, very actively used in Chicago. I think there are, if not there may be 100 different co-working spaces in Chicago. I don't know in other places, but there's lots of places and opportunities. It does seem to be the next best place once you decide to move out of your house or your garage or Starbucks. Purchasing power. So maybe if you buy things collectively, you'll get those discounts. Maybe it will be helpful to co-brand products and have joint marketing campaigns. We're seeing that in Chicago amongst places like not-for-profits and theaters, where a portion of the ticket fee for the dance theater company also goes to a nonprofit, and that is a way of co-branding that works for both of those entities. The industry cluster, it could be a place where you just simply have a think tank to utilize each other's knowledge and build on the knowledge of each other within the industry so that you all do better. And this is not necessary. This is a non-competitive kind of a situation. It's also important to look at your local building associations. In many cities and towns, there are BNI clusters. BNI is Business Networking International, and also LATIP. Both of these are associations where people can collaborate in and share business and leads with them, which is not exactly the same thing as this, but it made me think of that. When we're talking about here, they're talking about influencing industry. Supply chain partnership is also about what I talked about earlier, creating an open customer-supplier relationship and that allows you to get feedback to improve your products as well as opportunities to serve in the supplier chain. Co-production is engaging in your joint product development or production collaboration, and so to reduce production costs. A consortium is similar to some of the others in that it's joining forces with other vendors to produce a bid for a larger contract requiring multiple skills. These names are not hard, rocket hard, like I would consider that something that would also be similar to the supply chain partnership, frankly. But this is more about feedback as they've defined it here on this checklist, and this is more about going after larger contracts together. Here we're talking about establishing a legal subsidiary with joint ownership through injection of capital, technology, knowledge, people. And so that's a very involved venture. So you want to, it requires quite a bit of planning. So if that's something that you're going towards, that's a longer lead process in my estimation than the others. The strategic alliance is what they're talking about here, creating a coalition between companies that are competitors to obtain a shared competitive advantage. So as I was reading through these, you should have been thinking about how important is that to me. And also, you want to, let me back up a second. You want to look at then thinking through specifically, rather than just like a knee-jerk reaction, that you're really thinking through, what is the value to you and your company for having this kind of alliance, and what would be in it for the others, and then start thinking about, well, who are some of those others I would like to engage in this process. So once you work through this sheet and you identify partners, I wouldn't say drafting a partnership is the first next step, but you want to really look for potential partners in your networks and on the internet, and also make contact with potential partners to explore opportunities. Sort of the last piece on that is drafting a partnership agreement. The only reason that would be first is for you to articulate what you want out of a partnership agreement, but the other people in that process need to do the same. So to me, that's a longer process, and it is something that you do want to get down in writing should you pursue going the partnership and alliance route. The next worksheet that we have is taking you to the next steps. On the business alliance tool, you identified which alliances had value for you and who you might want to target as a partner. This tool helps you with prioritizing and the how-tos. I'll talk a little more about each of these categories and what they mean. Note they're not in the same order as the topics on the first tool, but the tools go together. And they will help you really think through those you want to collaborate with and why. So again, the purpose of this one is to, like, okay, now that you're thinking about partners, what are the projects that you might do together that create value? So here's a list of the kinds of possible partners you may be looking for. And again, remember, NGOs in the world it stands for non-governmental organizations. And so those are some of the possible partners. These are some ways to consider collaborating. And there's a lot of this being talked about right now with the climate meeting in Paris. There's a lot of countries pledging to provide research to find ways to reduce global warming, even some of the smaller companies. And so that's what I would call as a science project. That's how they listed here. So let's just look at these. If you, over here, let's start with the intention. By mapping out the type of collaboration and possible values, we can more easily make decisions about the collaborations to form. So that's why we think about this. So when we think about, I would actually put this one last, so I'm going to talk about it last. Let's look at knowledge and technology. Who could complement your ability, your knowledge, and fill in gaps that you have? What kind of knowledge and technology can you contribute to another? So you might be thinking about that. When we talk about references projects, this can help you look at and prove that you can do the work. So you want to look at projects that can qualify the company, your company, to your potential customers. So could a partner help you do that? And what kind of project would you be on to do that? Then purchasing collaboration. Again, we talked about that earlier. Resource sharing. Sharing resources like facilities, transportation, or internet and IT technology, information technology. You might want to share strategies for sales. Maybe you use a common sales force or distribution channels to share costs on that and to also be more strategic. Maybe you can exchange customer contacts because they have similar needs. So collaborating together to provide services or products and which provide savings to the customer may be a win-win for everyone. Then we already talked about resource saving. Making supplier agreements could be something that you will want to develop a supplier agreement once you decide which of these other things you want to do. And then, you might think about what are the symbiotic benefits we get from collaboration. Like it may be that one of the benefits is that you get, quite frankly, more jazzed up about what you're doing because you're having people to talk about it and brainstorm. And that actually feeds your creativity to create new and better products or services. So looking at the symbiosis piece is a real value that doesn't necessarily have a dollar effect directly. So let's come back to co-financing then. So maybe this is a venture when you decide that you want to collaborate with people on a project. You have to look at who can contribute financing and who's going to contribute how much financing. Again, this is another reason why you'll want to set up partnership agreements once you get to the point where you've figured this out. So we've gotten an overview of the kinds of value that the different partners can create by using this tool or checklist. And then you need to really overall start rating what's the value overall to us, what's the priority, because you can't do everything. So what's the highest priority for you? You want to continue noting names of possible partners, and this might be a place where you capture that, and how you prefer to collaborate with each specific partner. And then do research to find more possible collaborators. Again, you're given a laundry list here to think about, and ways you want to collaborate, and how to find them. Personally, I don't think I'd find them through advertising, except that you might see their advertisement and go like, that's a partner I think I might want to pursue. I wouldn't advertise for one at the early stages of business, but perhaps that would be reasonable. Most of them are going to be in the area of personal introductions, people you already know, having done research on where you're going, and also taking a look at what networks you are involved in might provide really synergistic opportunities for you and other people in that network. But let's come back over here. You want to find ways for qualifying the best partner. You don't want to just take anybody. You want to really have thought through what would make a qualified partner. Just like you think for sales, what is a qualified referral? So those are some of the things you want to think about then. So when you think, I'm looking at my notes to see if there's anything else I want to share with you. When I think about customer sharing, you have to think about not only where you add value to their contracts, and your partner adds value to your customers. So again, it's a two-way street. You can't just be thinking about you here. Okay. So the next step then is like, okay, so what type of collaboration do I need now and in the future? And what areas of my company would be strengthened by cooperating with other organizations, and who joins forces with me and why? So we want to look at 3 areas of partnership expectations. The work, which is now that you've figured out why it would be in your best interest to collaborate, how do you find partners, suppliers, and business alliances, and how do you initiate a partnership? How do you ensure a good partnership? Well, when we talk about the future, we have to think about, well, what is the vision of the company? Where do you want to be in 2 or 3 years? How do you want to gain, what do you want to gain by creating a partnership or joint venture? And you also need to think about what's your walk-away point. Think if the deal doesn't look good or feel good to you, sound good, but you think you should for some reason, you need to look at what's your walk-away point. At what point is the deal just not good for me? If you have that in mind ahead of time, it'll be easier should that begin to happen. It's key to talk a lot more than what you do when you sign a shareholder agreement when you're talking about partnership expectations. A shareholder agreement only focuses on what happens when the partnership finishes. It has nothing to do with everyday life of the partnership. So as we review the next tool, you can think about what might work for you and what kind of social partnership you want to create. So when we think about money, how do you approach the deal with money? How does the other person, how do you want to spend your money? How do you want to manage the money? How do you want to invest money? For example, if you like being transparent in your company, but the person you're considered as a partner likes to keep things very closed and only between you and him or her rather than the whole company, that might be a deal breaker for you. So how the other person approaches openness could really make or break the deal. And coming back to the work, whether you're collaborating with peers or suppliers, contractors, or exploring a joint venture, you want to think, how will I initiate the partnership? How do I ensure a good partnership? Let's consider the working styles. How do you know you're compatible? Do you have the same views on work methods, for example? What about working conditions? Are you a stickler for people having to work on time because everybody's dependent on it? Or can the work style, working conditions be much more fluid? That really depends on the type of the work and the leadership that is involved. Okay, so let's look at the final tool. This is the partner social contract. Here, this is an example of things that you may want to consider when you're going to clarify expectations and to help you draw up a meaningful contract that works for both of you. Clearly, the areas are in the future, the money, and the work and lifestyle, like we just talked about. So again, let's look at the why. If you're going to partner in business, you need to know each other's position on key issues, such as the company's development and operations. So by clarifying different ways of thinking about the issues, you can also enter agreements and to avoid disappointment and conflicts later. So as I go through just reviewing these, think about ticking off which ones you take a clear position on in these issues. Maybe you don't have a clear position towards all the issues, or maybe your position is neutral. Then make any issues that are ultimately deal breakers for you. And then continue by going through the issues with your partner. So the partner should be doing the same thing independently. And then you should come together and look at where each of you stand. Maybe you'll find that something that was neutral for you is a deal breaker for your partner. So you have to work through that. And then finish by writing down the agreements you make about the issues you've gone through. So let's look at these. So in the future, we want to agree on, we have a clear mission, vision, and identity. And even if they're different positions, do they complement each other? And are we okay with them? If we're not okay with where we want this partnership to be, then that could be a problem. Again, here this implies using this for creating maybe a joint venture, but it can be really used for supplier diversity, and supply chain relationships. It can be used for alliances, and again, it isn't everything, but this is a good starting point to help you decide what needs to be included in our agreement and what doesn't. So within the mission, you can see we talk about market focus, products and future product development, market position and approach to competitors, size of organization, the ideal number of employees, ownership, whether we'll take on new partners, how we'll look at change in ownership shares, if any, whether we're going to create subsidiaries or how those subsidiaries, if they're already there, will be handled. How we'll handle exit or closure of sale of the company. By the way, we have a workshop coming up next year on succession planning, and I think that's something you might want to take a look at if you're in business already. So in the money, we're in the money. So what do we expect in terms of revenue, profit, or equity? Maybe it takes time to build a product or service together that you're thinking of, and so your revenue may have a longer lead time than your partner expects, for example. What are the growth ambitions? How comfortable and how much risk are each of the partners willing to take? What investments do each of us need to make? What expectations do we have for salaries, both of ourselves and of our employees, which I'm sure should be, be thinking about a strong minimum wage when you get there. Cost of living and cost levels. Do we have to make our product or service to certain standards? Do we want to offer fringe benefits? Can we offer them? Social responsibility. What do we want to do in terms of sponsorship or donations? It may not be important to you, may be very important to you. Managing issues of accounting. How will we handle our budgets, reporting, and controlling? And how will we share the income from the business? So in the areas of working life and style, how often do we need to meet? What's our most comfortable communications meetings? How are we going to collaborate together? What kind of working hours do we want to set for this business? What's going to be the major work location? How will we divide up the work? What is the commitment that they're or freedom to work on individual projects? What's okay for us for work tempo? In other words, the breaks, stress levels, multitasking, what's expected. This begins to get at the culture of the organization. Daily collaboration, knowledge sharing, teamwork, mutual help, what's expected there. Sometimes if you've been a founding member of your organization and maybe you've only just developed a couple people, you have created unconsciously some of this information. So it may be bringing up to conscious level how you do what you do and what you want to keep and what you want to change. So that impacts all of these kinds of things. Okay, and so you notice that there's an extra one on each one of these because maybe there's something else that isn't on this sheet that you also feel needs to be in your. So I see there's a question or comment from Sarah, and she's saying this is a great framework for having an initial conversation. Well, good. Okay. And I'm going to check periodically to see if there's other questions that you have. So looking at the social contract, you want to make an agenda for your next partner meeting where you go over the decisions you've made. Well, of course, first, both of you will have gone over this independently. Remember, that is critical because you really want to think about what's important to you to bring to the table. And I know you think you could skip a step by just doing this together, but there's lots of things that will occur to you separately, and then you don't want to have a hidden agenda. So you really want to do your individual work first and then see where the collaborative conversation takes you. Eventually, you want to transfer your various agreements into a document and make sure it really fits both of you. This will be very important when you have, as you will inevitably have, conflict within the group or with the partner, because conflict is to be expected. It will happen sometimes. So how you handle it will also determine how strong the partnership can be. That doesn't mean you won't argue, but it does mean that you'll have a means through which you can check back to see what you have agreed on and what you didn't, and then have a chance to renegotiate that. So the last piece of this, of course, would be to make an action plan to begin to make the agreements that you and your partner or partners come up with so that it actually comes into being the way you want it to come into being. Okay. So what's next? Well, use the social contract partner partner, sorry about that, as a starting point for a conversation between you and your partner, potential partners. Make an agenda for your meeting and draw up a formal letter of agreement. And create that action plan to integrate the agreements into the daily work. So remember, this is the growth wheel tool, and if you haven't used this already, you really should. It is an opportunity for you to really identify those areas for growth for you, those areas for opportunity, those areas in which you have issues you need to work on that are creating barriers to your growth. It can also help you think through where you need staffing as you get to that place, you and you, and where and what that staffing should look like. So again, if you're going to use these tools, I hope you'll consider using them with us. And I want to ask a couple more poll questions at this time. So could we have the next poll question? Most of you voted. There we go. So, good. I'm glad to see. You'll see that some of you have been in business a year to 3. That's great. And I think this tool is particularly useful for those already in business. So let's have the next poll, please. We'd like to find out if you've worked with the WBDC. I know that one person on the call has. And okay, so let's close that poll. Thanks everybody for voting so quickly. So one of you has not. Well, we hope you'll come in and join us. And then the rest of you, we're glad that you're already using WBDC. Okay, and so your next steps, of course, you can make an appointment with me or Karen Goldner here at WBDC. If you're an established business, Karen also sees established businesses here at the WBDC, and also there's a woman named Jamie Neely who's available to meet with you at the WBDC. And if you're outside of Chicago, which I know at least some of you are, then you can go to your, to find your local small business development center. You can go to sba.gov and type in your state, and you can see which ones are closest to you. And with a certified growth wheel advisor, like Karen and I are, you can determine which tools additional tools you might want to work through to break through to the next level of planning. And you can work on this tool on your own, and you can see the variety of tools you might want to work with. So let's take another poll, please. So we'd like to find out how you want to use the tool. So just take a moment to let us know how you plan to work in the future. And all of you have voted. So great. I'm glad to see that all of you are going to take some action. And the final poll we ask you to take, we're going to put that up right now, and then I'm going to answer any other questions, is we like to find out this information for our funders. So could you take a quick vote and let us know if you're a veteran, interested in opening child care, or already in child care. Okay, everyone's voted. So nobody in those clans. Okay, so that's all I have. So I want to be able to answer your questions now that you might have with these tools. Sarah is asking, and I'm saying this for my poll provider, did everyone get the collective project work handout? So if not, Eleni, please make sure people get that. Any other questions? Katie says she got it. Okay. Any other questions or comments that you have for this? I hope all of you will come in and see us who can. I don't recognize one name. Evelyn, I'd love to hear from where you're from. And I'm so glad to see the rest of you. I do hope to see you in person sometime. Okay, we're about ready to end the call, so I want to make sure that I have answered all of your questions. All right then, I see no other questions, so I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to see you sometime in the future. Thanks so much for attending the webinar, and please come in and use WBDC. Please take advantage of our other webinars and courses coming up. We have some very interesting things coming. Consult our website to see what those are. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.